San Francisco, the land of counterculture, Jimi Hendrix, the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, LSD, Hunter S. Thompson, the home of the pioneers and free-thinking who were all nestled in the ancient jaw-dropping redwood forest, with the gentle touch of a Mediterranean climate. San Francisco is where counterculture was born. It was heaven on earth. Now all the counterculture is microdosing psychedelics for vibe-coding productivity.
Seeing everybody such a twitch.
Or giving your 30-second startup pitch to get into a party. This is the culture that presides over the remains of the Summer of Love, a place devoid of any dating or love. My seed round is bigger than her new boyfriend's Series B. Me and my girlfriends are currently discussing how hot it is when a guy has consistent GitHub commits. When my New York friends ask why I struggle with dating in San Francisco, I tell them of the men who non-ironically say they're seeking a life co-founder. All this stuff now happening in San Francisco is a warning about what's about to come to the rest of us. You see, when I've recently been to San Francisco, or really anywhere in California, I noticed something extremely jarring. You'll arrive and go to say a Starbucks and a guy will be completely out of his mind. He'll be screeching, his face is spasming and his body is contorting. At the same time, everybody around you will just act normally, sipping their $9 lattes. So you're just sitting there trying to relax while the guy is breaking down in a way you've never seen before in your life. As if it's normal to sit down to relax with a coffee next to someone who is literally in living hell. This is why everyone just starts to put on their noise cancelling earphones to block out the reality and stay in their own world. It's almost just become a normal part of life there to watch people fall into the underclass while the driverless taxis go past. It truly reminds you of our coming future. If you walk down Market Street, you'll be offered fentanyl in minutes by dealers running the open-air drug markets, as you try to avoid eye contact with the shuffling fentanyl zombies.
The latest data shows the number of tents in Soma jumped nearly 140% over the past year.
And as you walk through the streets towards your dystopian tech job, hoping that this time you won't get mugged, you'll also have to be careful not to tread in some of the piles of oozing human feces littered throughout the streets.
In one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had, human feces is now a fact of life.
This might all sound like a cost of living problem, but it's really just a warning of the coming tech dystopia. Because this squalor and poverty doesn't come from a lack of wealth, but an abundance.
Renters and buyers flush with tech money are flooding the market, eager to live near their work.
Well, the rental market in San Francisco, it is climbing to enormous heights. The median price for a one-bedroom apartment, it's more than $4,000 a month.
You can see this reflected in the city's upmarket areas like the Pacific Heights Billionaire Row, where properties regularly sell for over $10 million. The AI founders live in these bougie converted Victorian townhouses, which look like hippie communes, except they're actually packed full of tech nerds that cost millions.
Reem lives in a collaborative house, formerly known as Genesis House, where founders can immerse themselves in projects, network, and have support of like-minded peers, and work round the clock.
Everyone's very helpful. Everyone's always willing to have conversations. Everyone is so unique, and I called it a sitcom.
One of these regenerated areas has been dubbed Cerebral Valley, where, to quote, is to the brilliant minds who have moved here. They all say the same, that you absolutely have to be there.
Anthropic is here. Google researchers are here. I think that that's one of the reasons why San Francisco is sort of this beacon. It's just bringing all the people who care about it. You almost have to be here.
These upmarket areas are confined to their own world, with the new upmarket coffee shops, bars, restaurants taking over all the historical parts of the city. They then serve the wealthy new elites and shield them from the areas their presence is destroying, while the mega rich are fortifying their mansions into bunkers to guard themselves and their own families from the growing population of zombies that roam the streets. It's why Zucky has a bunkie along with Sam Altman, Reid Hoffman, Peter Thiel, all of them. It's even got so bad that the CEO of Palantir is now warning us that the AI leaders of Anthropic and OpenAI are led by people with parasite mindsets who seek to reduce Americans to serfs.
We have people trying to drug addict us to a future they believe they control. They want to tell you we have to march into a future where we own nothing, where our businesses aren't profitable, where none of us have jobs, and where our adversaries win.
The result is a blueprint for the two-tiered tech dystopia being exported out of Silicon Valley and deployed across America as a whole. But maybe you don't need to be a San Francisco tech nerd to make money with apps. Which is why I want to tell you about Freecash, and if you use my link in the description below, you'll get a $10 free bonus. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, an app called Freecash, that sounds like a scam. Honestly, I had the same reaction, but once I understood how the business actually works, the name started to make a lot more sense. And before I explain it, one important thing, this isn't a get-rich-quick app, and it isn't going to replace your job. Think of this more just as a way to earn a little extra from things you might already be doing anyway, as this is exactly how Freecash positions itself. Here's the idea. Companies spend enormous amounts of money trying to get people to download games, try new apps, answer surveys, or shop with certain brands. Normally that money goes towards advertising, but Freecash flips that around. Instead of paying to interrupt you with another ad, those companies pay you to actually try the product. You're getting a portion of the marketing budget instead of just being the audience for it. That's the entire business model. I've been testing it out and the process is pretty straightforward. You browse available offers, choose one that actually interests you, complete whatever the offer asks, and your progress is then tracked so you can earn rewards as you go. Just make sure the app tracking is enabled because that's how the offer knows you've completed the requirements. I also like that they're realistic about what it is. It's not advertised as a salary replacement. It's just a simple way to earn a little extra while playing a game you were already curious about, trying an app, completing a survey, or even getting cash back from stores you already use. They've already built up a pretty substantial platform, with more than 70 million registered users, over $300 million paid out, and a 4.6-star Trustpilot rating. And then once your balance reaches $25, you can cash out through options like PayPal, crypto, or gift cards. So what are you waiting for? Sign up through my link, complete your first offer, and you'll also get a $10 bonus, which gets you almost halfway to your first withdrawal. Check it out with my link at the very top of the description or pinned comment. It's free to join, and if you're already spending time trying new apps or playing games, you might as well get rewarded for it. The city's identity has been destroyed, leaving in place something that's soulless, homogenized, and just anti-human, the opposite of everything it used to be. Tenderloin is the case in point. It's the district of San Francisco that gave it the reputation as the fentanyl capital of the world, but it actually used to be a genteel, upmarket, and great place to live. It had a jazz club graced by some of the biggest names in the business. John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and so many others. A true San Francisco cultural district. So let's take a look at it today.
There's like a drug deal happening. It's absolutely wild. Chaos out here. Totally passed out. Tenderloin. Nobody cares.
Every day on average, 2 people die from a drugs overdose here. In December, Mayor London Breed called for a state of emergency in a notorious district called the Tenderloin.
What's it like living here?
Lawless. Completely lawless. This is anarchy.
But you'll notice how the place itself, the street and architecture, is still what it used to be. It's a really European, walkable, livable city, which is very rare in America. And it's this side of San Francisco that they've let spiral and decay. Now compare that to some of the awful new builds with sheets of glossy glass and metal, studded with LED lights, low quality finishings, and not a single form of ornament. Representing the cult of pervasive ugliness in San Francisco that has no authentic attachment to any place, people, or culture. It's the mantra for why all modern cities are starting to look exactly the same in America, radiating this bland misery to all cities across the states. They're no longer building cherished homes or dynamic places of work, they're just storage containers for drones in this egotistic strive to put their unique stamp on the world. That's why people are now moving into literal pods, with vast areas now being redesigned to keep humans like livestock. One is planned to contain 400 beds, dubbed a megadorm, charging around $1,200 a month just for a tiny pod in a room, while you don't even have a door. Huge apartment blocks are being crammed into once historical low-rise neighborhoods like Sunset, the Richmond, and the Marina, and you just know it's going to end up looking like Miami Beach.
One of the big things that we talk about in San Francisco is the doom loop. The commercial buildings are completely empty. Prices for real estate have completely crashed, but the silver lining here is we're going to fill every one of those skyscrapers with thousands of very high-paying jobs.
But it's the data center that has to be the most anti-human building of all, though the young elites want to distance them from where they live, so they usually just place them down to Santa Clara, some 45 miles down the road, which has around 160 data centers and counting. yet it's only a city of around 140,000 people, and yet 60% of its electricity is soaked up by these data centers. So where does the philosophy that led to all of the stuff happening in San Francisco actually come from? Well, since the invasion of the tech nerds into the city, their philosophy has percolated into the city's cultural DNA. It's a philosophy relentlessly focused on optimization and efficiency, where all the bullshit buzzwords are rendered into human form. Naval Ravikant is the human personification of a San Francisco buzzword. Listen to him talk about how his wife can't even spend time with him, he can't go to birthdays or events, and everything centers around him in every sense.
My wife knows not to ever book or schedule me for anything. I'm not expected to go to couples dinners. I'm not expected to go to birthdays. I'm not expected to go to weddings. If somebody tries to rope her into having me show up, she says he makes his own decisions. You gotta ask him directly.
What about
and vice versa?
And this self-optimization over everything ideology is rampant in tech.
How many days in a year do I not put in some meaningful amount of work? It's probably about 2 or 3.
Right. I don't believe in balance, so I'm the wrong person to ask about that.
Can you elaborate why you don't believe in balance?
Maybe it's just, and I think people are wired differently, so I think it's hard to generalize this kind of thing. But I am much happier and more satisfied when I'm fully committed to something.
That you don't have any levels of introspection.
Yes, 0, as little as possible.
Why?
Move forward, go.
This anti-human so-called ethic is glamorized in San Francisco more than anywhere, and it's come to influence the city in every way. It's created different internal worlds that don't intersect, and an ethos to orient a city once built around culture to be around technology instead. Justin Keller, who calls himself a San Francisco refugee after moving there to capitalize on the tech boom, wrote an open letter to the city's police chief. He decries the rising presence of homeless people and drug addicts. He's worked hard to make money in tech, he says, and shouldn't have to be assaulted with the sight of homeless drug addicts on his way to work. He acknowledges gentrification hasn't helped these people, but after all, it's a free market economy, and he's earned the right to live free from the sight of poverty he helped create. He is, of course, the CEO of a generic AI company called Commando.ai, which empowers users to be more efficient and improve their workflow. Or there's the tech CEO Greg Gottman, who describes himself on LinkedIn as a longevity entrepreneur building something between peptides, websites, and physical locations. Gottman started out funding startups in pure tech, but he's now pivoted, appointing himself the chief peptide officer of his company Peptod DAO, which works to lobby the FDA for peptide approval. Gottman, dedicated to progress of humanity and human health, also hates homeless drug addicts. In a now deleted Facebook post, he lashed out at the degenerates that gather like hyenas. And you can preach compassion, equality, and be the biggest lover in the world, but there is an area of town for degenerates and an area of town for the working class. There is nothing positive gained from having them so close to us. Elon Musk has even complained about how his staff at X are too scared to come into the downtown office.
If you've walked around downtown San Francisco, right near the FK Twitter headquarters, it's a zombie apocalypse.
But in a simultaneous case of tech elite's contempt for the lives of mere mortals, he also demanded all of his ex-employees to return to the office full-time anyway. This is about as far as tech elite's empathy stretches, complaining about employee safety only because they want employees back in the office, ignoring everything about why their employees aren't safe in the first place. This is the ideology driving the tech dystopia coming to all American cities. They don't just cause segregation, but see it as the natural way of the world they are building. Yet it's not only the built environment around you, but the entire foundation it's built on, which is completely out of sync with reality. In a city with this much wealth, you'd expect some to trickle down to the poor, or at least the billions in taxes would come back to the people, right? Wrong. The city has consistently proved it's willing to be innovative for the sake of business, but never for people. In the early 2010s, San Francisco cut a deal with Twitter. They said if you move your headquarters to the Market Street area, you can skip payroll tax for 6 years.
We have a kind of a unique taxing system here in San Francisco where historically we've actually taxed employees' growth. And that's kind of a business punisher, if you will.
This blatant tax break came with the condition that they help regenerate the area, offering free Wi-Fi to families and grants to fix up dilapidated houses. Of course, Twitter didn't uphold its side of the deal, and all those ideas went in the bin. Other companies like Airbnb avoided paying taxes for years, and when residents tried to fight the invasion of expensive short-term rentals, they threw millions behind the court case to block it. Then, in some of the most pathetically petty corporate behavior of all, cool, they followed it up with a series of passive-aggressive billboards lecturing the city. This powerful tech lobby, endlessly funded by the hundreds of billions they generate, defeated a bill to give Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash employees workers' rights, and ensured robo-taxis went mainstream despite the city's population's serial petitions to prevent them. It was a series of choices. Tax breaks were choices, weak protections for tenants were choices, allowing private platforms to redesign public life was a choice, and none of this had any positive impact. Since the tax breaks and promises of revitalized commerce, 47% of businesses have closed. The job creation tech companies promised in exchange for their tax breaks mostly just made jobs for people who never lived in San Francisco, such as the Justin Kellers and Greg Gottmans, who were imported from other states and places to fill these jobs while the neighborhoods around tech offices saw eviction rates climb, never seeing really any employment. But what about the city's incentive schemes for its actual human population? The San Franciscan dystopia can be summed up in a single toilet, the New Valley Public Toilet. It epitomizes the disconnect between the reality of San Francisco and those with the immense wealth running it. The rise of homelessness and social breakdown has caused the epidemic of public feces in the last few years. So while the city was lining the tech elite's pockets with money, those liberated from their homes and jobs filled the streets with human shit. So their answer to this problem? Build a public toilet. Sounds like a great idea, right? But this is San Francisco. Problems aren't just dealt with, they're exacerbated. When they announced the initiative, they stated it would take 2 years to build the toilet and only cost $1.7 million, just for one toilet. Officials blamed massive inflation for the astronomical price of a public work like this. Yet it's really just symbolic of the problem San Francisco faces. Ever poorer taxpayers are left footing astronomical bills for public solutions caused directly by wealthy tech companies. The Affordable Groceries Act was proposed to stop companies keeping former pharmacies and grocery store buildings empty to prevent competitors from opening up there. It would have incentivized companies to keep open brick-and-mortar grocery stores and pharmacies that the local community relies upon. But Amazon, who owns Whole Foods, has other ideas. They set their lobbyists to work on the mayor, who then killed the ballot vote on the matter. Amazon, meanwhile, continues to push their subscription-based grocery delivery service for $9.99 a month. And this isn't just an isolated incident. The wiping out of the middle classes, the death of brick-and-mortar buildings people rely on, the imposition of a subscription model for every aspect of life. The endgame isn't us living our lives, but us renting from them as corporations who took control of our society. The wealth isn't trickling down. It's pumped sideways from one tech worker's salary to another's rising rent, from one platform's profits to the founder's third home. But it never touched the people who were already there. Now the same city that once promised jobs and progress is being shown the sequel. It won't even keep the jobs it has because AI and robotics are robbing the city of its non-tech obsessed human population. Scattered across San Francisco are billboards from an AI startup called Artisan, telling employees to stop hiring humans altogether. Stop hiring humans, reads one, over an image of a smiling AI woman to instead hire artisans. Even the language has been engineered to stop you seeing what is happening. They don't call it firing people, they call it optimization. Spying becomes personalization, and Monopoly becomes an ecosystem. And now software designed to eliminate human workers is being sold as an artisan. It was bad enough when bearded hipsters making latte foam art started calling themselves artisans, but at least they were real people. Now the word is being stuck onto an LLM built solely to replace humans, in what's got to be one of the worst cases of tech trolling today. Employers just want slavery back. They're just hoping that using AI is a workaround to actually having slaves. The city that was told automation and platforms would liberate it is now the city where automation is advertised as the thing coming for the jobs that were supposed to be the payoff in the first place. If the trickle-down lie has a hometown, this is it. So this cocktail of rapid mass unemployment and mass homelessness inside of one of the world's most expensive cities shows us exactly what the future will look like when controlled by a minority of tech nerds who don't even believe in the human race.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
this is a long hesitation.
But why is it like this? How did it get so out of touch? Well, we can see it with the philosophy of people like Naval. We see it in Stanford, YC, all the tech elite podcasts. These are the people manifesting the ethos of the city, where you take a political and social catastrophe, strip away every uncomfortable question about what caused it, and then reduce it to one technical problem that can be solved by purchasing the right object. People are having a shit outside because housing, addiction, and government have collapsed due to big tech. The solution? Build a smarter toilet. This is called solutionism, where they turn these complicated human situations into neat, computable problems with a definite solution as if it's a bug in the coding. The technology doesn't solve the actual crisis unfolding and the complete dystopia this thinking brings with it. It just simply redefines the dystopia into something technology can then sell back to you to profit from. And the virus is spreading across America. Back in 2018, Seattle tried to put a tax on the biggest companies in the city, after locals were pissed that giant companies like Amazon were ripping the soul of the city, while everyone became poorer because of this. The tax was just the equivalent to 27 cents per employee per hour, but it wasn't just to bleed tech dry, it was to pay for the skyrocketing homelessness that had caused a state of emergency in the city. But Amazon had other ideas. Bezos threatened to freeze construction on its new headquarters if the tax went ahead, and the rest is history. Seattle's council caved in and repealed the tax within a month. But what happened next shows the engineered empathy and hypocrisy of tech elites who consolidate power. Bezos pledged $2 billion to fight homelessness in Seattle. He even built a 47,000 square foot homeless shelter inside Amazon's new HQ. He unveiled it in a press release with a slick promo video, and it succeeded in hiding the fact that he just killed a bill which would have funded homelessness services across the city. And it's all part of the tech elite's fake empathy playbook. Fund the homeless shelter that you can stick your name on, but kill the tax that you can't. One Reddit user from Seattle summed up what it feels like to be pushed to the outside of the tech bubble in your city. Essential jobs are getting harder and harder to get by with because of big tech displacement and their greed that doesn't feed back into the city. I don't care about Amazon's charitable acts they do solely for PR. How about instead the company and the people at the top are taxed fairly so the city can actually fund what we desperately need? Better education, better mental health support, better healthcare options, and affordable housing. Amazon's goal is just to create a company town where if you don't join, you are out on the street or have barely enough to scrape by. So what is this tech dystopia going to look like once it takes root everywhere? Tech companies will have all the contracts for private and public sector work. We're already seeing this with SpaceX and NASA, with Palantir and the DoD. AI and robotics carry out the work. What little income taxes still generated are handed over to the tech to pay for these services. Tech workers and CEOs then capture all the profit from their contracts and lack of human employees, while they live in bunkers with private security, eating the finest food, optimizing their bodies with the newest procedures to live forever. But outside their iron bubble, rundown infrastructure rots. Public services aren't maintained as serving the public is no longer thought about. 10 cities are filled with homeless, unemployed addicts lining the streets. People can't even afford to eat and turn to scavenging and fighting over scraps. Disease and psychosis are just facts of daily life. College students are now living in their cars. They aren't building bunkers to protect themselves from nuclear war or climate apocalypse, but from humans. What happens when you mass produce humans with nothing left to lose? Really, this is just the story of America coming to an end, and from there it will spread everywhere. I mean, it has to end somewhere. The trajectory is reaching its endpoint. But no, there's not a UBI, there's no redistribution of wealth. Nor is this going to be a reckoning with the tech industry and its outsized power. Silicon Valley and San Francisco is just ground zero for the coming dystopia, where your city soul is slowly replaced by the same glass condos, Chipotles, WeWorks, and overpriced coffee shops, where everything becomes unaffordable, while podcasters tell you that resting in happiness is failure, where desperate men scream in the streets, public spaces decay, elites that used to give money back to the public works and libraries hoard it all in bunkers, where the culture is replaced by a transient, yuppie class with little connection to what existed before it, where billboards advertise your eventual replacement, algorithms extract your remaining hours of life, and the billionaires you worship wouldn't even press a simple button to save you from your own death. All while the data centers hum quietly in the distance, powering a future in which the basic pillars of humanity, love, community, and happiness are eroded forever. This is what represents the new San Francisco counterculture.